23rd of January, Rabbi Moore, Parsha Hashavua, Mishpatim. Well, it probably makes sense that it was in the Hefker Bowl because it sounds like it's not very valuable.
Yeah, well,
Hi, everybody.
hi.
One second. Okay. You can all hear me?
Yes.
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 Okay, good, good. Hi, Gary. Shalom
Hi.
Aleichem.
Alaikum shalom.
As far as I know, Corona is not contagious over the Zoom, so
Understood.
it's up to you, whatever you feel free.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks. I explained to the gentleman here that my wife requires it because she
Okay,
doesn't want to
fine.
catch it.
Okay, very good. Okay, let's go. Meir, let's start off. Eila Mishpatim asher tosim lifnei.
Okay. Ve'ele hamishpatim asher tasim lifneihem. And these are the judgments which you shall put before them. Okay, Rashi. Ve'ele hamishpatim. These are the judgments. Kol makom shene'emar.
It's an important vav there, and this is what Rashi is going to dwell on.
Oh. Shemakom shene'emar ele. Okay, so whenever it says ele, pasal et harishonim.
It disqualifies what was said before. Meaning, until now we mentioned this, and now Eila Hamishpatim. These are the things, and not what was mentioned before. Ve'eila, when it says ve'eila, like over here.
Okay, so Mosif al harishonim. So he adds to the first ones.
Right, the earlier ones, the original.
The earlier ones. Okay. Maharishonim misinai. Just as the first ones were from Sinai, af elu misinai. So these are from Sinai. Okay. Vilama nismecha parashat dinim lefarashat mizbeach. Okay, and why are they?
Okay. The Parshas Dinim, this whole Parsha basically deals with, certainly the first section, which is quite a large section, till Ravi, deals with all aspects of civil law.
Mm-hmm. Oh, civil law. Okay. Until it deals with the Mizbeach, I guess the building of the altar.
That was mentioned in the end of last week's Parsha. The last section of last week's Parsha, it says, Pasuk Chof Aleph, chapter 20, Pasuk 21. Mizbach Adom Ataseli, V'sovachto Olav Eselisecho V'shlomecho V'sencho V'spakorecho. Kol HaMakom Asher Azkir Shmi Avo Elecha V'Irachticha. Mizbach Abonim Taseli, Lo Yisivnei Esen Gozis, Ki Char B'cho Einafto Aleo V'Atechal Alecho. Okay, then it says, you shouldn't go out with steps. It should be a ramp. That you shouldn't reveal your naked parts. They shouldn't become revealed whilst going up the ramp. Okay, that was discussing thing. And now this Parsha, for something completely different. All of a sudden it's asking all the aspects of civil law. Okay, you're buying an Avedivri, and then you're buying an Alma Ivriya, and all those laws about somebody harms somebody else. So everything to do with all aspects of civil law, which have no connection whatsoever, seemingly no connection to the idea of the Mizbeach. So that's what Rashi says over here. Why is the Parsha about dinim, which means civil law, connected? Why is it juxtaposed to the Parsha of the Mizbeach?
Okay, it says Lomar lecha shetasim Sanhedrin etzel hamikdash. To tell you that the Sanhedrin should be next to the Beit Hamikdash.
In fact, the place where what's called the Sanhedrin Agdola, the supreme Jewish court of the Sanhedrin of 71 elders, that presided in the Lishkas Hagozis, which was adjacent to the Azara. It was a very large room adjacent to the Azara. There's a whole question, different opinions, whether it was partially in the Azara or not, where it was situated exactly. But Kolpanim, it was definitely the position of the Lishkas Hagozis was directly next to the Azara itself of the Beis Hamikdash. That's where it was. And this pasuk is indicating that this actual fact that they had to be next to each other, and the idea behind it is because there's no two words. All aspects of Judaism, whether it be serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, bringing sacrifices, and the idea of civil law, which seems to be totally can't quite say man-made. The whole comes logical result of logical conclusion why the dinim should be like this or like that. They are those both aspects of Judaism hold similar weight. There's no just, well, I'm going to be a Jew in the shul, in synagogue, I'm going to serve Hashem. When it comes to the marketplace, well, whatever, I can do whatever I feel like. That's not Judaism. Judaism means I serve Hashem when I go to shul, and I serve Hashem in the marketplace as well. Keeping access to all civil laws, how to treat other person's property, how to deal with other people. It's all the same. Whereas Ben Adam LaMokim and Ben Chaveiroi are two essential parts of Yiddishkeit, of Judaism. So therefore, that's why Chazal say, put the Lishkas Hagozis, the seat of the Sanhedrin, which was first and foremost judging judicial cases between two litigants, or war, whatever, depending on whatever case they may be judging. But it was primarily civil law which they were dealing with. That had the seat of the Sanhedrin had to be in the Azara, in the part of the Beis Hamikdash itself, to show you that both aspects of serving Hashem by bringing sacrifices, and serving Hashem by keeping civil law, of equal weight. Okay, let's continue.
Okay. Asher tasim lifneihem. So you shall put them before them. Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu LeMoshe. So Hashem said to Moshe, Elo ta'aleh al datcha lomar. So you shouldn't think to say, Eshne lahem haperech v'halacha shtayim o shlosh pa'amim. That I will
Teach them.
Teach to them. Okay. Haperek, I guess the chapter.
Chapter or
and
section.
the law. The session and the law. Okay. 2 or 3 times. Ad shetahei sidura bifnei bifihem ke mishnata. Okay, so until it will be
till they're fluent, exactly knowing what the halacha is. Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, Akash Baruch is telling Moshe, don't think that you can just get away with just teaching them the halacha. They will know exactly what to do in all cases because they know the halacha. But you don't explain to them, carry on.
Okay, ve'eni matriach atzmi lahavinam ta'amei hadavar uferusho. So I'll not bother myself, okay, to make them understand.
Yeah.
Okay, the reason of the thing and its explanation.
Well, to say all the svaras behind the halacha. I'll give you an example. I'm just trying to think of a mitzvah which has the svara behind it.
Like usually, if you ask a Rav, a Shaila, he'll give you the answer, but will not explain to you why.
No, that's right, exactly. So over here, Kosh Baruch told Moshe, you have to explain to the Jewish people the svaras and the background behind the halach. Okay.
Okay. Lekach ne'emar asher tasim lifneihem k'shulchan ha'aruch u'muchan le'echol lifnei ha'adam.
Right. You should place it, give it to them on a platter. Place it before them, that they should be, Derech Agav, that's why the Shulchan Aruch is called the Shulchan Aruch. Comes from this terminology used here in Rashi.
Oh, okay.
The Shulchan Aruch, like a set table, it's ready to eat before for a person. So same thing, Moshe Rabbeinu was told to present the Jewish people with the halacha in a way that it was readily edible by them. Kaviyachol means the pshat is they not just knew the halacha, but they also knew the background behind the halacha. That this way they would be fully versed. How do you call it?
Well versed.
Fully versant in the halacha.
Oh, okay.
Okay, not just knowing the actual halacha, but also knowing the idea behind it. Okay.
Okay, so lifneihem, before them, below lifnei goyim, but not before the other nations. Va'afilu yadata b'din echad. So even if you know one law,
A certain law, right?
or a certain law, okay, shehem danim oto kedinei Yisrael. That what they judge it
Means that the law is the same as Jewish law. The way it's an American law, in this particular case, is exactly the same as Jewish law.
Oh.
Okay?
Nevertheless, al tivi'ehu the arkaot shelahem. So, but don't bring it to them. Okay.
To their courts.
To their courts. Shehamevi dinei Yisrael lifnei goyim. For when one brings the laws of Israel before the non-Jews, Mechalel et Hashem. Oh, to desecration.
If two Jews have a dispute, and instead of having it adjudicated in Besdin, they bring the adjudication to the Goysha courts. Yeah, that is a chilush of Mechalel es Hashem, that profanes the name of Hashem. Okay, umeyake shem ha'elim lashbicha.
So it's equal to idol worship.
Well, the name of the idol worship, that it should be praised.
Oh,
I mean, we're talking about each other. Shnema, this is a pasuk in Parsha Hazinu.
Okay, kilo kitsurenu turam ve'oivenu pililim. So let's see. Kilo,
Their rock, meaning their belief,
Uh-huh.
right? Their idol or belief is not like our rock, or the one to whom we believe. Yet, yet our enemies are judging us.
Oh.
So that's what Rashi says. When our enemies judge us, that's testimony to the supremacy of their deity.
Oh, wow.
So if they don't have a avodah zarah, then how does this apply in that case?
Yeah, but still, if you, let's say, most in a Western society, most Western society have Christians or whatever, but still it's a chilul Hashem. If two fine religious Jews have a dispute, and instead of having adjudicated in a Beis Din, they go to a Goisha court. So what does the Goisha judge look at the Jews? He says, well, why don't you go to your courts and have it judged? Why do you come to us? That must be, you consider our judicial prowess to be on a higher level than your judges, than your rabbis.
But I'm troubled by the usage of the wording in Rashi. Number one is the use of the word avodah zarah, and the other is the use of the word
Yirasam?
oivenu.
Right.
What if they're not avodah zarah? What if they're not enemies? Why does he use those specific words? Why doesn't he just say, "Don't go to a non-Jewish court because it's a chilul Hashem"?
So what she's saying is basically that is the pasuk. Why the term of pasuk used over there uses the pasuk Oyevenu, our enemies? I'm not sure why he uses that terminology. But the point is that the ones they are. The non-Jews have a totally different system of judicial system, and also a different system, a societal system. And they base their whatever deity they worship or give belief in, right? That's a totally different form of belief than what we have in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why that's termed our enemies, I don't know, not sure. You're saying a good point. What happens if they're not our enemies?
My understanding is that when you go to Beis Din in America,
Right.
you sign a binding arbitration agreement.
Correct.
And the purpose of doing that is that if you have the case and the Beis Din rules, and then the defendant does not cooperate,
Right.
then you're permitted to take the case to the American courts, and that binding arbitration agreement gives you standing in the court.
Because the two sides have signed a legal document saying that they accept the ruling of the Beis Din.
So now, what about your point about they're going to look worse at us? They're going to say, you Jews, you can't even handle your own affairs in your own court. You got to come here for us to clean up your mess.
No, so that first of all, the idea behind it is that Lamaisa, a Beis Din, even though both sides have agreed to the adjudication of the Beis Din, but the Maisa, Beis Din, because we're living in Golus and we're in America, we're not ruling. We're not we don't have a police force. We don't have law enforcement in our own private system of law enforcement. So therefore, we have to rely on the law enforcement system of the country to be able to put in certain situations where not both sides are cooperating. You have to have we have to turn to the national or whatever, the local law enforcement system to be able to put the decision of the Beis Din into practice. You're right. The person who, after signing an agreement, and the defendant goes along and he says, runs to the court, and he doesn't comply with the Beis Din, he is causing a big chilul Hashem. Besides the fact he's not accepting the psak of Beis Din. 100%.
But what I'm saying is we're making it worse by by the plaintiff going to the secular court. He's admitting that the Jewish system failed.
Because we don't have a law enforcement system. That's why. If they would allow us, the federal government would allow us to have our own police force, great. Right, guy doesn't keep the Beis Din, we give him lashes, right? Or we do some other forms of some other form of punishment, which will. Actually, I won't go into the background, but I was at a meeting last night, and where they were discussing about, there's a certain, whatever, do with people who are abusers, especially child abusers or whatever. So one of the people piped up there, says, a few hundred years ago, the local Beis Din or whatever, there was a guy in town who was an abuser. So when he went to the mikveh, they made sure he didn't come up again.
Oh.
I don't know if it's true or not, but anyway, I'm sure there were cases.
I hope it's not true. That's really,
But obviously,
to me, that's a chilul Hashem.
Okay, whatever, I'm not going into it, I'm just saying, but I'm saying, technically, if we would have our own law enforcement system, then maybe things would be different. We wouldn't need to turn to the Goyim to enforce our decisions of Beis Din. Okay, the point is, and it's an interesting thing over here, that if the non-Jewish court is going to pass on something different, then for sure it's forbidden to go to the non-Jewish court instead of a Jewish court to Beis Din, because they're going against halacha. And even if they give the same, that's what Rashi's saying over here, even if they give the same psak, nevertheless, which is why you're going to a Goyish Beis Din, not going to the Goyish court, not to the Jewish Beis Din. So it says you give more chashivas, give more credo to the Goyish court than you do to the Beis Din. Okay, let's go weiter. Gary, you want to have a go at Pasuk base?
Okay. Ki tikne eved ivri shesh shanim yavod uvashvi'it yetzei lechofshi chinam.
Very good.
I got it right. When you will buy a Hebrew servant, he shall work for 6 years, and in the 7th he shall go to freedom without charge.
Right, very excellent. Translated, very well done. Okay, by the way, you said translate every be a Hebrew slave. We'll see in Rashi, it's correct, the Maisa, but Rashi's got quite of a lengthy it's very interesting, by the way. We're going to notice the major difference between Rashi here and Parshas Mishpatim is very different style than it has been from Rashi heretofore. Because here we're now coming to halachas. Rashi explains halachas. Rashi is very, not that he's more long-winded, but Rashi becomes it's a different style. Becomes more Gemara's kind of style. When it comes to narrative, Rashi is pretty much okay. Rashi mentions the point or whatever without going into alternatives or background or whatever. Whereas it comes to halacha, though, as we're going to see over here, Rashi, as I say, Rashi becomes lomdish. You know what that lomdish means, right? Okay, let's see the Rashi here.
Ki tikne eved ivri, when you will buy a Hebrew servant. Eved shehu ivri, a servant who is Hebrew. O eno ela avdo shel ivri.
Shel ivri. Maybe you know what it means. Eved ivri, this never means a servant of a Hebrew. Not a Hebrew servant, that the ivri is the adjective of the word eved, but it means, or maybe it means the servant, Eved Ivri means the servant of an Ivri. That's interesting because the word Eved, whether it's in the absolute form or in the construct form, it is written exactly the same way. Eved. Eved can be an absolute form or it can be a construct form. Eved Ivri, as Rashi says, Eved Shel Ivri, the servant of an Ivri. So it says maybe it means that. And
Eved
what is it?
Eved Knani Shelakachto Yisrael, Canaanite slave bought from an Israelite.
Meaning one Jew bought bought from another Jew. He bought a non-Jewish servant from another Jew. So this servant, this Eved, was Eved Shel Ivri. He was an Eved of a Jew. And now you go and acquire from that Jew, you buy that Eved for yourself. Maybe that's what we're referring to over here.
Omer, 6 years he shall work.
Right.
Uma,
Now Rashi says, Umani Mekayim. And how do I fulfill? There's another pasuk later in Parshas Bahar. V'histachaltem.
Nachaltem otam.
Right now, that full lashon the pasuk there is v'histachaltem oisam livnechem acharechem loreshes achuza. The pasuk says over there, if you have a Canaanite or a non-Jewish slave, you v'histachaltem oisam, you should pass them on in by Yerusha, by inheritance. In other words, you pass on, that's just like a person has his property. And whatever property he has, he passes on that property as inheritance to his children. So too, says the pasuk, you can pass on your servants as well. This implies that these servants are not just serving for 6 years. They're serving, they're like proper chattel and property. That says Umani, so what's that pasuk referring to? Umani mekayim lisnachaltem oisam.
Lakoach minagoy.
V'lekuach min hagoy. Okay, it means either that if a Jew buys a slave from a non-Jew, then he can keep that as his permanent property. Avo v'lekuach mi-Yisrael. If one Jew buys from another Jew,
You'd say b'shesh.
then he should go out after 6 years. Talmud Loima, no. Here we're talking about, we're not referring to a non-Jewish slave, referring to a Jewish slave. Talmud Loima.
Mi mecher lacha achicha ha'ivri, o ha'ivriya, v'avadecha 6 shanim.
Right. Because it says later on in Parshas Re'eh, if it's sold to you, your brother, the Hebrew, or Ivriya. So it says he is sold to you, means your brother is sold to you. And that's referring to a Jewish slave. Lo amarti elo ba'achicha. And I said that's only referring to your brother, and the how do I know it's talking about the same thing?
There's a flaw.
Both, sorry?
There's a flaw in Rashi's logic here.
Because
He's leaving out another case. It could be that what it's talking about is that a Jew buys from another Jew a Jewish servant.
that's exactly what we're talking about.
No, he's saying a Jew buys from another Jew a Canaanite slave. I'm saying
That's
he
what I
buys
want.
from another Jew an Eved Ivri.
1 second. It's as follows. We are saying over here, Rashi says, first starts off, this pasuk says, Eved Ivri, Sheshanim Yav. If you buy Eved Ivri, what is the meaning of the words Eved Ivri? So Rashi says it means a Jewish slave. Well, maybe not. Maybe it doesn't refer to a Jewish slave, but it means to a non-Jewish slave who had belonged previously to another Jew, and now you're buying it from him. Your case, okay?
No, that's not my case. That's Rashi's case. I'm saying there's a third case that Rashi
Buying
does not
one
consider.
Jew from another Jew?
It is the slave of a Jew, the Eved Shel Ivri. Now,
And he's
that
Jewish.
slave, what do we know about him? We have two possibilities. Either he's an Eved Kanani or he's an Eved Ivri.
Right?
If he's an Eved Ivri, all of this discussion here is irrelevant.
So, so according to you, what you're saying is it's two types of Eved Ivri. Jewish
No.
slave.
Two types of Eved Shel Ivri.
Yeah, I understand. No, but one second, what's going to come out? There's a Jewish slave of a Jew, and there's a non-Jewish slave of or there's another Jewish slave. The two types of Jewish slaves.
Right?
No, okay, I hear what you say. You're saying there's a Jewish slave of another Jew.
Right.
Yeah. So, and what is the din particular about him, and what would be if he sells himself?
It could be that that's the case he's talking about. The Torah is talking about where a Jew buys a Jewish slave from another Jew.
Okay.
That would be Eved Shel Ivri.
Okay.
In
Yeah,
which
first-
case, it could be that he goes free after 6 years.
Well, Lemaisa, that is the din. Even if the words Eved Ivri means a Jewish slave, it's tantamount to the same thing.
Rashi is trying to prove that it isn't Shel Ivri. And his proof that it isn't Shel Ivri is that he can't go free after 6 years if he's an Eved Kanani. I'm saying it could be a Shel Ivri, and he's an Eved Ivri, and therefore he does go free after 6 years.
Right. But
so Rashi hasn't proved it's not Shel Ivri.
I know what I'm saying is, but there's no nafkamina, there's no difference if whether you describe him as a Jewish servant, whether he's Eved Ivri, a Jewish servant, or Eved Shel Ivri. Is there any difference between the two of them?
Yeah, it means he's the second owner.
And he would be the first owner. What would be the din?
Then it wouldn't apply.
I mean, so therefore he could serve forever.
No, I would say
If a Jew decides he's hard up and decides to sell himself, okay? So you're saying he can sell himself for an unlimited time.
So you want to know how many years can he work if he's an Eved Ivri that has only had one owner?
This is the first owner. This Jew is selling himself to for the first time. He's selling himself to a fellow Jew to be that this Jew should be his master, and he should be the servant of this Jew.
So, in that case, there are other discussions which explain that he only stays for 6 years. Right? That's quoted from Devarim 15:12.
Yeah, so 1 second. So that's talking about that case there.
So I would say that what it's saying here is this poor servant, this poor Eved, he's suffered the insult of being sold a second time. So because of that, we want to make sure that you understand that you can't keep him forever.
Okay, but if he sells himself the first time, like as quoted in the pasuk there, Ki mochelecha achicha ivri. If your brother, the Jew, is sold to you, that's talking about first time or second time?
Second time.
Sorry?
Second time.
Not here. I'm talking about in Parsha Re'eh.
Oh, in Devarim?
In Dvarim, yeah.
Okay. So that would be the first time.
Okay, and what's the din mentioned over there?
Let me find it.
So am I.
12. Okay, if your brother, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, will be sold to you, he shall serve for 6 years, and in the 7th year, you shall send him away from you for free.
Oh. So you see, even the first timer,
It's the same exact rule.
right? So you see, if you're going to assume there's a difference between a Jew who's been sold once or sold a second time, you see the Pasuk L'chayah is not telling you, it's telling you differently.
But why do I need 2 Pesukim in the first place?
Okay, we're going to see about that.
Well, all I'm saying is that the proof is not a proof, because I can give you a case where it's shel ivri.
So I'm saying, I understand what you're saying, but the question is then, if you're going to understand the Pasuk in that way, you are saying exactly there's a difference between he's sold once or sold a second time. That's what you're going to have to say.
Maybe I can come up with another explanation. I don't know. I'd have to rack my brain to think about it. That's not my point. My point is
And your
not
point is Rashi's logic is not watertight.
right. That's
Okay.
it. Right.
Okay, I think we'll leave it here for here. And tomorrow, Bez Hashem, we'll see who we can carry on.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Looking
Fine, have
forward
a
to it.
great day. You will.
Shkoyach.
Shvuah Tov.
Okay.
Shkoyach, Mayor.
Hi,
Hope to
how
see
are
you
you?
again, Gary.
Nice reading. And
Okay. Feel better.
the pleasure. Okay. Hope to see you.
Refuah Shlema.
Hope to
Refuah
be.
Shlema.
Thanks. Hope to
Okay.
be at another shiur.
Okay, very good.
Great.
Bye now.